Congratulations to John Dramani Mahama, the president for Ghana, for doing this. He actually saved this particular woman from falling, okay, today in Zambia. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's dive in. Welcome back to the family once again, ladies and gentlemen. Guess what? A simple outfit became a loud message. A calm joke turned into a serious African debate, ladies and gentlemen. Culture, pride, trade, and of course, identity suddenly stood in the spotlight. What happened in Zambia, ladies and gentlemen, didn't actually stay in Zambia alone, okay? It crossed borders faster. This moment actually showed or demonstrated how clothing can actually speak louder than words. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, that is the president of Ghana, actually attended the Zambia Business Forum in Zambia. Ladies and gentlemen, he wore a traditional Ghanaian was not smock, okay, also called Fugu or Batakari. Soon after, ladies and gentlemen, online reactions grew. Some people mocked the outfit, okay, others defended it strongly, most especially my fellow Ghanaians. The discussion went viral, ladies and gentlemen, and became known as the Fugu War. At the forum, ladies and gentlemen, President John Dramani Mahama addressed the issue with calm humor. He said in a quote, "I have won the Smock to the highest platform in the world, the United Nations, so I am surprised that Zambians didn't actually see me in a Smock. I won't be surprised if by the time I leave here, online searches for Fugu go up." Quotation close. Ladies and gentlemen,
it's called the Smock in English, but in our language some people call it Fugu, some call it Batakari. Yeah, now this is a traditional dress that is made by a local industry. It's part of our culture. And so in the past it was worn by kings, royalty, and also warriors. When our warriors were going to war, they wore smocks. And the belief was that the smocks were soaked in some herbs and then some spiritual thing was done. So when you fire a bullet, it can't penetrate, you know. And so the smock portrays a lot of things in our culture. And significantly, on the day Ghana, the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence, on the day our independence was declared, our president, Kwame Nkrumah, was wearing a smock. He and all the freedom fighters were wearing smock. So smocks have become an integral part of our cultural identity. And I want the smock to the United Nations, the highest platform in this world. I'm surprised that Zambians didn't see me in a smock last September. Yeah, when I gave the speech that everybody's talking about, I was wearing a smock. I'm surprised that they didn't notice it till I visited Zambia. But the smock weavers in Ghana will be very happy because I, by power of social media, have giving them branding and marketing that they couldn't ever have dreamed of ever getting, and I'm sure that by the time I leave here, the number of searches for Fugu, Batakari, and Smock, is going to be quite high. And it was just because of an innocuous statement. People were commenting about my arrival, and one person said, "Oh, but what blouse is he wearing?" That's it. And it triggered a whole social media firestorm. But incidentally, you know what? When I arrived, we exchanged gifts, myself and President Chilema. He gave me a beautiful carving, Zambian carving, and I appreciate it very much. I'm going to put it in my office and label it as a gift from President Chilema. And then I gave him a fugu. So what I wore, I gave him one of that. And so he said he's going to order some more and then distribute it to his Zambian countrymen. But one to promote the local garment industry. And so all my clothes are made in Ghana. They are sewn by Ghanaian designers. Yeah, so all these safari suits and things I wear are sewn by local designers. And that's what I wear every day, to work, to official functions. And the thing is, I told President Chilema, I can understand that you wear suits because your part of the continent is colder. Our part is warmer than yours. And so we need to adapt to clothes that make us comfortable in the warmer weather.
John Dramani Mahama, okay, joking about the viral Fugu War at the Zambia Business Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, his words eased tension, but they didn't actually end, the debate. During the same visit, ladies and gentlemen, another moment stood out. President John Dramani Mahama saves a woman from falling in Zambia live, and you can actually see it from this particular footage, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what does it actually tell you? The act showed or demonstrated quick action and, of course, care, shifting attention from clothing to character. Soon after, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? Interest in Ghanaian culture grew. President of Zambia has ordered more fugu after admiring the Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa in a colorful Smock Fugu or Batakari. Okay.
And I'm very happy that the foreign minister, you dressed like that. I asked my team to post on various platforms that were associated with that. President of Zambia will be ordering more of that stuff for himself.
President John Dramani Mahama, ladies and gentlemen, also spoke about trade and of course culture together. He said clearly, and I quote, okay, we will export some fugu to Zambia and create a new fashion trend there. Quotation close, ladies and gentlemen. This story, ladies and gentlemen, move from mockery to meaning. It opened a deeper talk about African identity, dignity, and of course self-worth. If you actually value calm, factual, what an African, was not stories like this, please make sure that again to like this video, subscribe, and of course turn on notifications so you don't actually miss what comes next. Thank you so much for your wonderful understanding. Now, precious audience, let us quickly discuss the history and the meaning of the smock. To understand the Fugu, ladies and gentlemen, the Fugu War, the smock itself must be understood first. Okay, the smock, also known as Fugu or Batakari, comes from northern Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been worn for hundreds of years. Kings wore it, warriors wore it, farmers wore it, and of course, it wasn't fashion first, it was identity first. Ladies and gentlemen, understand that for me. The smock or Batakari is hand woven. Ladies and gentlemen, each strip is made with care. It takes what on time, it takes what on skill. The cloth shows patience and of course discipline. Long before what on modern borders, ladies and gentlemen, people across West Africa specifically wore similar designs. Okay, the smock connected or linked communities, not what on countries. Ladies and gentlemen, in Ghana, the smock or fugu became a symbol of unity. Leaders across political lines wore it to show respect or honor for tradition. It entered parliament, state events, and global meetings. Ladies and gentlemen, President John Dramani Mahama wearing it at the United Nations made history. Okay, it showed or demonstrated Africa will actually stand proud without copying what anyone. This history, ladies and gentlemen, matters. Okay, clothing sends messages. When African leaders like our President John Dramani Mahama wear local fabric, they support local workers, tailors, and money weavers stay employed. The local market grows stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, culture turns into economic power. This is why the debate, okay, went deeper than jokes. Okay, it wasn't only about Zambia or Ghana. It was about how Africans see themselves. Okay, now let me actually ask you this, ladies and gentlemen, do local things mean less or do they mean what strength? The smock has survived colonization, pressure, and of course shame. It remains strong because it belongs to the people. Ladies and gentlemen, wearing it is not old-fashioned. Okay, it is a statement of confidence. President John Dramani Mahama's words and actions reminded many people of this truth. Okay, respect for culture doesn't actually divide Africa, it connects Africa. As the debate spread online, ladies and gentlemen, a strong message came from Ghanaian social media. A Twitter post captured the deeper emotion behind the issue. Ladies and gentlemen, the message was shared widely and of course read carefully. The post said exactly, ladies and gentlemen, in a quote, "Dear citizens of Zambia, mocking our president because he exhibits true Africanism by wearing a local Ghanaian fabric, smock or fugu, only exposes how some Africans have become mentally enslaved to the extent that to look nicely dressed means you must wear something foreign. With this mentality, we tend to look and act in ways that show that everything Africa is not good. Eating and wearing local stuff is the surest way to strengthen our local currency and grow the local economy." Thank you, President John Dramani Mahama, for showing patriotism and love to Africa and Ghana. Quotation close, ladies and gentlemen. The post didn't actually insult, it explained a mindset problem. It spoke about value. It linked or connected culture to economy. When people, support local goods, ladies and gentlemen, money stays with local, jobs grow, pride grows. This message matched President Mahama's calm response, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't actually attack anyone. He joked lightly. He explained history. He spoke about trade. This approach reduced tension and of course opened learning. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're actually finding value, okay, in this particular calm and factual analysis, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you take a moment to like this particular video if you haven't done it yet. And most importantly, for you to stay updated, don't forget to actually subscribe to this particular channel and turn on notifications. Remember, we are not here to create content, but we are here to spread our African culture. Okay, So ladies and gentlemen, the Fugu War became a lesson. Respect doesn't need anger. Culture doesn't need shouting. Confidence speaks what's not quietly. The event in Zambia, ladies and gentlemen, ended with respect and honor, not conflict. Remember, interest in Fugu increased, okay? Trade troubles increased. Cultural curiosity replaced mockery. Ladies and gentlemen, that outcome or results mattered. President John Dramani Mahama was in a leadership style, ladies and gentlemen, showed or demonstrated patience. His actions showed humanity. Saving a woman from falling showed presence of mind. Wearing the smock, okay, or the Fugu showed or demonstrated pride. Speaking about export showed vision, ladies and gentlemen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this development, okay, teaches Africa something, clearly. Identity is not weakness. Local culture is not, backward. African goods have value. African stories or narratives deserve respect and honor. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the smock is no longer just clothing in this particular video or story. It became a bridge. It connected Ghana and of course Zambia. It's reminded Africans that dignity starts from within. Thank you sincerely for watching. Please like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications.